Welcome to Shiloh Ranch Live. We still have no clue what we're doing. Day 2. I have got Jason Graham, and I'm going to tell you, like, of all of my friends, he is the closest to Shrek. You know, like, there's that movie Shrek, where Shrek, everybody kind of is like,
comparison here.
But remember on Shrek where he's like, I'm an onion, I've got layers. I think everybody would like to think that's true of themselves. I'm going to tell you, like, I have learned over the time that we've been friends, the longer I know you, the more I know how true that is. And so thanks for jumping on here.
Yep, no problem.
So here's specifically, I mean, we'll get to all of it, but specifically, you and I have only been friends for about a year and a half. Is that about
3 months of that, you called me James.
That's not true. I think if you, it's like,
It is.
you know, everybody says they have, like, when they get to heaven, they have that one question for God of like, God, here's the one thing I didn't understand. Here's mine. God, why would you put me in ministry and not let me know names? Like, I can't remember names. Like, some people remember names, some people remember faces, and I remember neither. On yours though, specifically, somebody told me your name was James. And so it was like,
Carrie Jo called me James for a long time too.
So I think I was like supposed to know your name. We were kind of to that point where we knew each other well enough that it wasn't like,
Hey,
tell me your name.
bud.
Yeah. And so it was like, his name is James. I'm like, great. Yeah. Anyway. So the first time I remember meeting you specifically, I just remember the tattoo. You've got the tattoo of the bull with the broken horns on your fingers. And what I didn't realize at that time is that you were the same guy who had sent some Facebook messages a while back, because I'd been in and out. You kind of came at a time where I was gone, and you had already started, in my mind, you'd already started to kind of settle in around here before I met you.
Yes.
And so it was a
Yes.
Bible study. So would you mind?
It was actually over the winter.
Yeah.
I
yeah, no,
came in
don't-
October-ish.
Yeah.
And then there was a little bit of contact there, and then you left for the winter. And then when you came back, it was the next NTR you called me James, and that's when it's actually Jason. But that was when it started, was really.
So if you don't mind, do you remember the Facebook messages? Because I was aware, but I
got
didn't
to
know who it was.
rambling. I got to rambling. I know.
No,
'cause
I don't think it was that.
I did a lot of this to go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just wrote all of that. It was kind of a weird. I needed something. I was angry at God because of always going up and down.
Yeah.
It's getting dusty in here already.
Yeah, my allergies. Yeah. Well, the message. So the message that I got was, I didn't take it all in. Like, we get a lot of stuff that comes in, and so to be honest, I was more aware that somebody had sent some messages that things were sort of connecting online, but I didn't put that together that was James. His name's Jason.
Would you call it a cry for help, Lacey? Because you were the one I was talking to.
Lacey was interacting a little bit. So
she was the one that responded to me.
Okay.
And that was kind of, it was basically a 12-page cry for help.
Okay. So let's back up even before that, because I didn't know any of this until later. So you guys are getting kind of a sneak peek as to what was taking place. When did you start traveling as a welder? We'll get to the details, but like, I know that you did a lot of stuff, but at what
age or what point?
At what age?
I'm going to say right around late 20s, 30 or 30-ish.
And so how did that, because to catch you guys up, like when I say world famous welder,
Well,
like,
I wouldn't say world famous. There was a lot of people in the world that knew me.
is it more than one country?
Yeah.
Is it more than one continent?
Yes.
I'll stick with world famous. But like, you were traveling to places doing what? What were you?
I did. I worked on ski lifts. Was the main thrill of my life was ski lifts. I spent about a year and a half repairing our infrastructure, repairing bridges, and then before that, I spent like 15 years rock crushing.
But it's always been, I mean, like,
It's always been hands-on.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this. ADD wasn't there when I was in middle school. I'm pretty sure I had it.
yeah,
But
Right.
because 10th grade, it was like, I can't do this no more. I
Right.
got my driver's license. I got a job.
right. So you're climbing a ladder, I think is that a safe way to say it? Like, from a welding perspective, you were
Are we talking about my accident?
not yet.
Okay, because I don't want to talk about my accident. Because I can just right there, you just saying that right there, it's like, it's a hard one.
Okay, we won't talk about that. But what I do want to talk about is, like, you spent years being self-reliant. Completely self-reliant. You were good at your job, running crews.
My world revolved around usually 5 people.
Okay.
I mean, and this isolation thing has been going on for me since I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
My crew was 5 people. Rock crushing, it was 5 people. I was the youngest by 25 years. So basically, I was forced to learn a lot in a fast way.
Yeah.
Because everything I did, I was told I was doing wrong 5 different ways.
Right. Yeah. So, I think sometimes that
which was so helpful. I mean, I am what I am because of those grumpy old men.
Right. I wish that was something that everybody could grab a hold of. Is like sometimes when the older people are being hard on you, it's the greatest opportunity if you see it that way. Like I know that people want to like, well, you're hurting my feelings, or I think you're not talking very nice to me. Like, but my generation really greatly benefited from like my grandparents' generation, which was the greatest generation. That if you see it like that and you'll listen to what they're trying to say, but so in my mind, it doesn't surprise me that you would begin to progress quickly because you had people who are at least willing to speak into your life.
I was a single child to a single parent, and so my grandparents were very, very influential, and that generation is what actually made it. I mean, the worker that I am.
So being as close as you were with like your grandparents, that was a good preparation for like this traveling lifestyle with 5 people on your team, ski lifts and all that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what years were you overseas traveling doing this that you're doing?
Well, my accident. Well, I was in here in 2002 for the helicopter crash.
Okay.
On the Mount Hood.
There's a video of that, right?
Yeah. There's actually, you can see where I'm standing on the hog's back when it rolls by.
If somebody wanted to Google that's listening,
I think it's destroyed in seconds.
Just Google destroyed in seconds helicopter crash.
It's YouTube, but I think it's destroyed in seconds.
Okay. And you're in the video. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's just a blip. I mean,
yeah.
Because there's another helicopter that's filming the helicopter rolling down the mountain, and then the hog's back is right there because it's between the 2 helicopters, and it just pans down, and there's a group that I'm standing at. I was hauling.
And that was 02?
I'm pretty sure it was 02.
Okay. So I'm going to connect the dots, and then you can just kind of tell me how far into it you want to go. But life changed for you at what age? I'm not talking about the
I was going
accident.
to say let's go with a general Jason. How's that?
Okay.
14, I was an alcoholic. 16, I was a drug addict.
Did any of that affect your ability to work, or was that continuing through all that? Were you able to work through all that?
It was my lifestyle. I was raised in it. Like I said, by 14, it was. I wouldn't say full blown alcohol, but for 14, yeah, I would say.
Yeah. And so as this began to progress, all that went with
just partying,
you.
partying. Had crappy, not crappy jobs, but worthless jobs. Wash cars at a car lot just so I could have party money.
Yeah.
And I have a brother who's brother from another mother, but we rampaged that town for a few years.
And what town was that?
Sandy.
So then that was home, even in all the traveling and going and doing.
Yeah, it was always home because that was no matter where I was, bridges or ski lifts or whatever. That's where I was from. My wife was from. My kids lived. My wife's family's from.
You always had the ability to come back there as kind of the nest, in a sense. So you transitioned out of Sandy to Central Oregon in what year? What year did you move over here?
Well, we bought the property, I'm going to say, pert near 5 years ago.
And that was post life change, occupational life change.
Yeah.
I'm going to tiptoe around it because pause for just a second. There was an accident, and we don't have to get into it, but there was an accident that wouldn't allow you to continue the job that you'd had previous.
Back to the brief of Jason. Jason's hit bottom twice.
Okay.
Jason was spiraling down. The second one, and it's 2 different types. One of them was drugs and alcohol. And I was clean for 19 years.
Okay.
And then second one was the accident, which was while I was sober. But that was just a fact of didn't know if I was going to get out of a bed.
Yep.
Didn't know if I was going to get out of a wheelchair.
Right.
I was told by several doctors at one point that we need to start thinking about.
I'll take over for a second while you're dealing with allergies. So when you found your way to Central Oregon,
manageable lifestyles. That's what I had to start deciding. And then they were concerned with quantity of life.
Right.
And that's
right.
It's quality. It's got to be quality.
Yep. So one of the things I've noticed about you is that it would at a glance it would seem like you're an introvert. as far as the masses go, because like you can be in and out of a room and people don't know that you're there. Like you're not somebody who comes in and announces your presence. This is a fairly large church, and I would say
I sat in that corner for 3 months and the only people that talked to me was Snowden when I walked in the door and the Franks because they sat by me.
yeah.
And I talked to these guys just because I walked out the door and it was a new life. It was a new life.
Right. Is this the first church?
How's it going?
Is this the first church you'd ever say you've been a part of?
I wouldn't say I was forced, but I kind of thought about it. My mom was a single mom, and there was a lady down the street that was a single mom, and they kind of got together, and she was really religious. I think she kind of coaxed my mom into going, which made me go. And then it just got to a point where I got old enough where I was like, I ain't going no more.
Right. Kind of like school.
Yeah.
So, but it would seem to the outside eye, it would seem like you're an introvert. But to know you, to what degree I know you, I would say you're very extroverted with your group. So for you to say that like your work lifestyle was a real tight knit group of 5 or 6, I think that's kind of carried on. Like what I see is that that's still true even today.
No, and that's all you need. I mean, you don't need a big tribe.
Well, and what I'll tell you, there's nothing but guilt for me after a certain number of people because I can't keep up. Like I genuinely care for what God is doing here, but there are times where I feel like it's not, like I don't do a good enough job of staying connected because it's impossible. There's no way to stay as connected as I'd like. There's just too many. And so what you're saying is like, I wholeheartedly agree that if you've got your group, it allows you to be a good friend to the people in that group and not feel like you're just torn in a million directions.
Yeah. And before I walked in that door, my third spiral was basically a social life. I was done.
Isolated.
I wouldn't compare myself with Unabomber, but
That's good. Good that you wouldn't.
It's kind of a comparison.
Yeah, just so how did you, because there was a transition, I would say there was a transition into this Jesus concept and I'm not, like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you tell me if I'm understanding this right. It wasn't like instantly I'm in. It was you're isolated, trying to figure out what this next phase of life is going to look like.
Yeah, when I was recovering and I was told manageable lifestyles, I told them, no, that's not how it's going to happen.
Right.
So I surrounded myself with a Buddhist, a Shaolin monk, a yoga master, and it just
Right.
I don't have very much feeling in my legs.
Yeah.
Right now today.
Even today.
So it's how am I walking? How am I running from heifers?
Well, I will
would
say not real effectively
real
at that
effectively.
specifically. Specifically today, we have spent time already today trying to chase down a steer that's in the neighbor's pasture unsuccessfully. And Jason almost got ran over by a cow. She was almost successful.
She wasn't happy with me.
So you're like what I see of you, what everybody sees of you is like you're still mobile, like you're still around, like you're still participating. Hold on, let's not get ahead of it. So you're here. You moved to Central Oregon because you needed sort of a reset. Like you were.
I was done with people, and
Yeah.
Central Oregon provided me with a place where the only person I had to talk to was the cashier at the self-checkout at Fred Meyer's and the cashier at the self-checkout at Home Depot.
So you're sitting there completely isolated because, like I said, I can understand how you would think. Here's what God does with me. Sometimes he allows me to go down a road that I think I want to go down, and then I realize, like, no, that's not what I actually wanted, and he brings me back. And so if I'm understanding this right, there was this complete isolation, and then there's this moment of like, well, this isn't really.
It's unhealthy.
Yeah, I don't want to be this isolated. Maybe I don't want to be around 1,000 people, but
My wife was getting worried.
okay. So
And that's kind of why I say Unabomber, but not Unabomber.
yeah, she's like, you're good,
Yeah.
right? So what was the first interaction with the community here? What was the first, like the first time anybody said or heard or that you read anything about, because what's funny is you were such a fixture to me. You're such a fixture here now. What's the first?
I forced my way onto you.
Yeah. No, that's not true. I know what you're talking about. And that, like, one of the things that we do here, and if you're watching, I think this is going to be really helpful, is if somebody just calls and like, I want to get involved, it's almost hard to get a call back because you don't know what level of buy-in. Everybody's busy. And with what we do, it requires a certain level of commitment. And that's not fair to ask somebody who's just casually wanting to like rub shoulders. It's not fair to go, okay, we need you to be here 4 or 5 days a week. Like we've got a lot to do.
Right.
The only way that somebody's actually going to find themselves embedded in what goes on here is exactly the way that you did it. Everybody that I would say has found a home here participating was exactly how you did it. But you didn't just walk in one day. I mean, you found out about what goes on here where?
I don't really social media very much, but it's for some reason I was sitting in the
Jason, every time I post a story on my Instagram, your name pops up as watching. So you can say you don't do social media. I know you do it some.
I'm a, what do they call those?
Closeted social media.
I'm a stalker.
A closeted
Stroller.
Anyway, so you do social media some.
Okay, so you scroll down there, and and you get that little box thing that says people you may
suggestions
know.
and stuff.
So, and there's other ones. Well, there, and I swear to this day, I swear that there was a thing that said places near you that need you. And it was Shiloh Ranch Church, and the next one was 1017 Project. I've never seen that before. Everybody I talked to, any of you ever seen that before on Facebook?
For you guys that don't know, Jacob, if you want to jump on there and say hi, Jacob's watching us. He's the one that's kind of editing all this. And so, Jacob, have you ever seen anything like that on? I've never.
And I swear to you, it was there. And I've never seen it again. My wife says I'm crazy. Everybody I talked about says that I've never seen that happen.
Crazy
but anyway, it was there, and that made me click on that. And then I opened up your Facebook page, which took me to your website, which took me to your YouTube, which made me watch your videos. And then I was texting Lacey as I was watching. Actually, I'll admit, when I was texting Lacey, when I was messaging Lacey, I was watching Scooby-Doo and Kiss.
Yeah, but I mean, that's pretty much the same as us.
But as soon as that was over, I put on one of your sermons. And I watched probably 20 or so before I actually walked in the door. I think I went to men's group first, actually.
You came to men's group first before? So. That's awesome.
Because it was when I found you, let's say I found you on Tuesday. It was Thursday morning.
Yeah. So,
and that literally was what it is. I found you that way, walked to the door, and I've been here ever since.
In the beginning, there was a desire to be, like, we don't know your story. We don't know that you've traveled all over the world, that you were a world famous welder. Tell me that you said it. You said it the other day. You said there's two things you wanted to accomplish: bottom of the ocean
and outer space.
It
never happened.
So if you'll weld something, I'll throw it in the ocean, and then I don't know what to do about space. But we don't know any of this. I mean, honestly, you don't make it a point to walk in wearing your credentials. Like it would have been easy for someone to not know your story at all for a long time. And so to say like, hey guys, I want to get involved, didn't really go anywhere, right?
Nope. I sat because of the way when I first started, I was not in very good healthy condition. I was stiff and sore and couldn't move very well and bend over. And so I sat at Brasada in the stands for like 4 weeks. Good. Just watching practice, just seeing if maybe I thought I could do that.
That was the Tuesday night practices. We have a weekly Tuesday night team roping practice through the winter.
And that was 2 winters ago.
Okay.
And one day I finally just said, hey, I knew what time, because I'd go early just to make sure that I was there, because you were roping every once in a while, so instead of showing up at 5 or whatever, you guys were showing up like 4:30, so you could rope a little bit, or whoever showed up early could rope, Dave and stuff. And so I was like, I'm missing out on, there's like an hour there that I could be there watching and stuff. And then I went by and I saw that roughly what time Dave loaded up steers. And so I just showed up here at the arena one day and said, hey, and I forced my hand upon him and said, hey, my name's Jason and I want to help. And he said,
for you guys that don't know Dave is like fine doing it himself. Dave is one of those people that's like, I'll just do it myself. It's just easier than trying to manage.
He told me to go to Brasada and meet him there. I said, no, I'll just stay here and watch.
So okay.
Dave was awesome.
There's
knows.
a cattle program. No background with cattle.
Absolutely not.
No background with church.
Absolutely
so it is
not.
literally like you're just taking a cannonball plunge of like, I guess I'll figure it out.
Adapt and overcome.
It
happens all the time in my life.
So if you don't mind, and I know that I wish Sherry was here to tell us her perspective, but what is going on now as you're telling Sherry about this place that you're kind of, because here's my opinion. This church and the cattle project is just a conduit. It's literally just a pipeline to go from zero to the concept of Jesus, right? So as she hears that you're involved right now all of a sudden with a church.
That's healthy for me.
What's her like, what is she saying?
I've never really been, like you say, I've always had 4, 5, 6 people, outside the family. I always had it, because I didn't know my father, never knew him. So I was always very, very close, tight-knit from my family. It was going to be very tight-knit. I forgot, where were we going with that?
What's her response? You're like, hey, I think I'm going to go to church.
She was like, well, you need it, so you probably, because
at that point,
she's a true believer. I mean, true believer.
Yeah.
And I won't say in the closet, because she will have a conversation.
But
with
what
you,
doesn't
whatever.
wear her credentials, same as you. It's not like she has to like qualify her belief. She is. What I know of her, she's very confident in what she knows and what she believes, and she doesn't need the whole world to know it. She just lives what she believes.
Yep. She thought it was great. How's that?
Yep. And so in your mind, at this point, because now you're going and helping Dave, like at what point did Dave kind of start to transition to like, okay.
Because I wouldn't stop.
Okay.
I was always right there.
Yeah.
And if you want something, you go get it.
Right.
I wanted to learn cows. My neighbor, he didn't want nothing to do with me because I didn't know nothing about cows. And he runs a business with cows. So he didn't want nothing to do with me. So I was trying to find some place to get involved with cows, found this place, which got me into, my neighbor was finally like, hey, I didn't realize you knew cows. You could do this. So, but it's a, I wouldn't say perfectionist. It's the detail.
Okay. So this to me is where it grabbed a new level for me, because I started to learn a little bit about your background, a little bit about your history. I started to hear like a little bit about your story, and it's a rare thing that someone is really, because I would say there's two Jasons, if I could describe it. There's the Jason,
an old and a new, or a now and a, or
yeah, maybe,
two now.
maybe. I mean, you describe however you like, but I would say this way: there's this Jason that people get to see, that's friendly and jovial and
public Jason.
But then your actions, when you look at like the taxidermy Jason, because for you guys that don't know, Jason's like a really, really good taxidermist. For the people that don't know that side, there's this calculated, thoughtful, intentional, like you do things, when you do something, you do it well. And I started to see that, and I'm like, what is going on with this guy? Because that is rare. That's a rare trait for somebody who feels like they're kind of lost in life or figuring it out, that there's this intentional desire to do something well, the quality that you don't broadcast.
QC.
What's that?
Quality care.
Okay. So all of a sudden now,
we step back just a second there as far as where I learned that from. I learned that from a giant. He was my manager at one of the ski resorts, and he was very much into that extra 5%. When you get done with a job, you take the extra detail to clean up the job, and then you take that extra 5% to make sure that it's cleaned up, that it's done right.
And that's rare. I mean, you know how rare that is. Yesterday, Chris said something on the podcast, and I'm curious. He said, it wasn't that I met Jesus here specifically. It was I learned to recognize who he was, and I realized he'd been there all along. Because when you got here, there were still some questions. There were still some.
It was still a why. Why did I have to go so good? Become such a good welder, and then drop off.
What the world would say is the bottom.
And when I got sober, my family, and I have two families. There's my immediate family, my wife and kids, and whoever I'm with now, and then there's my aunts and uncles and blah blah blah.
Okay.
When I hit bottom, because of the way I was raised, I was basically shunned.
Yeah.
I was outcast because I wasn't in that lifestyle anymore. And so it was a few years after that I finally decided that rock crushing was not for me, because seems like every day I got up, went to work, and fought with my family.
Yeah. So you're here, and obviously this is a church. So even if you don't know the details specifically of this church, you know sort of the general ideas are.
I went to a few. Before, because I was, like I said, I was angry.
Yeah.
Why do you do this to me?
Yeah.
Then you preached about that I wasn't me. I don't know about you. But anyway.
So tell me, because like I like that people who have questions feel comfortable here. One of the things we say is we want people to feel like they can belong before they believe. And I would like to think that somebody in your position that's maybe angry at God could come in and go, hey, just heads up, I'm not over this yet, but I at least want to know if there's answers to my questions. Is that a?
And that's kind of why I went to other churches before I moved over here. I went to other churches because I wanted to, I can't be angry with somebody that I don't really know. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that I tried to figure it out, but I can't be preached at. You can't tell me how to intake my religion.
Right.
And that's why I just tried a couple times, a few of them only once.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of where I was like, oh, well, just forget society.
Right.
And then spiraling down
go into my cave
towards the bottom again, and then I found you, and I'm just, okay, this is a church, and it's only right over there.
Right.
So I figured I'd try it, and you don't preach to me, you teach to me.
Well, and
Thanks,
I think
Bo, for that.
I will tell you, I have a personal sort of dilemma that I go through of like, I feel like I'm almost too lazy to micromanage. Like I'm not a micromanager. I'm a macro manager with people that come to the church, with people that work here. It's just sort of this small government. Like, you guys can figure it out. We'll do the best we can of presenting information. We'll put it on the table, right? And if somebody connects to that, it's up to them. It's on them to pedal their own bike. It's up to them to decide, okay, I believe that. I understand that. I feel like I'm starting to understand the concept of Jesus. But I struggle with that because I know there are churches who are like, we need to get you in a program. We need to get you to read this book, and we need to get you to go through this curriculum. And like, when I see churches are that way, I have this moment of like, man, I don't know if I'm doing it right. Maybe we should be more like hands-on, or maybe I don't think I'm capable of it. I swear, I don't know if it's laziness or a lack of interest, but what you're saying, in my mind, I connect to that because I'm like, that's what I would want. I would want a safe place to observe, decide that I understand or that I don't understand, rather than like, hey, sign on the dotted line that you're going to become a member.
Right. And that was, and I mean, most of these people can attest that I sat in that corner 3 times a week, a lot of times, 2 times definitely, but sometimes 3 times a week, just because the vibe that this building emanates.
Yeah. Where would you say, if you were to describe, because somebody's going to be watching this and they're like, I knew that guy. What would you?
And I really hope that they don't have bad feelings towards me.
Oh gosh, I hate running into people I knew.
Right?
I swear I do.
And there are a ton of people
a
ton of people that I think about when they hear my name. What do they think?
Yeah, I don't even like going down that road.
Right, exactly.
If
So
they thought
let's
about
say it was somebody
me,
that really liked me back then.
let's go with someone that knew that liked you then. Because I swear I have to like just block it out. Because if they thought about me the way that I now think of who I used to be, like I don't even want to know.
All right.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying somebody that's like observing, maybe somebody that didn't much care for you, that's seeing this now going, what changed? Because if you were angry with God, now I wouldn't. I mean,
I understand it now. Is kind of the thing.
How would you describe that?
That I understand it.
What do you understand now?
Like before, I had no concept of religion, and I wouldn't even have said that. Like I said, my wife was a true believer, and I was not. So we combated there, but I wasn't going to influence my children. So I just didn't. It
Took a neutral
nothing.
position.
It was nothing. She did what she wanted but it's my belief is my belief, and I'm not going to spout that on my children. So, where were we?
How would you describe? Because you came in with questions. What would you say was the answer that? If you could encapsulate the, okay, now I get whatever it would be.
Peace and harmony. I really had never had that before. I will say that the 5 or 6 people that I had in my life, I can honestly say now that I have over 200.
Yeah. Are you okay with that?
Kind of weird.
One of the things
but it affects me in a positive way every time. Like actually, it's kind of weird. I don't do a lot of town stuff, but I have never seen a church person or a roping person anywhere in the public other than at church or at roping. And I actually saw JD at the store the other day, and it was like, finally, hey,
I have a community.
I have a friend. Not a friend, but I have somebody that I can look and say, hey, I know you.
You have done something that I've never seen done, and let me just kind of see if I'm describing this right. You're the first person, going back to the Brasada deal, you're the first person that I've ever heard, I've never heard anybody say this, that said, I want to take over being the best at working shoots.
Why does it only have to be the rodeo guys that strive to go to the NFR?
Well, so here's my point. Working shoots is kind of like one of those things that
Nobody wants to do.
Honestly, it's the job that people sort of shy away from. Mm-hmm. You're the first person that I've ever seen that looks at it and goes, okay, how could I improve that position? There's two things to that. First of all, it's a gift that you give every team roper around here because it's a job that nobody wanted. And so when people see you, obviously there's going to be like you're that guy. You have taken it serious. You've learned. You're the only guy that I have ever known that will come work shoots. Jason told me one time, he goes, hey, call me when you're going to rope to have you come work shoots. I'm like, I won't do that. You remember this conversation? Like, I will not call you and ask you to come work shoots for me. I won't do it. I can't. And you said, okay, well then just call me, tell me when you're roping, and then I'll decide. But that will come work shoots as a practice so that when these big events come around, you're better at it. You've got a crew. They know how to do their stuff. So how did you decide that was going to be your thing?
What running shoots?
Yeah. No, being the best at running shoots.
Because that's just who I am.
Okay.
If I take something on, I'm going to take it on to the limit.
Okay.
And I just took it. It was something that nobody wanted to do. I saw that, and I take it as because I can do it. You know, sometimes like after White Swan or after Pendleton, I didn't get out of bed for a day or two.
Right.
Just because it makes
you stand there all day.
It hurts that much, you know. At White Swan, I described it as we showed up in the morning and we had a street fight all day.
Yeah.
And all night because we were fighting with cows all day long.
And so, how did you get to a place where you said that's what?
Because I could do it. I could excel at it.
Now, to someone, but to someone listening that may not understand, you're coming from a place where you didn't have something.
I had nothing. I was going absolutely stir crazy. And so I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Yeah. I was this, and now I'm sitting here, this.
Right.
And so that was, it was a helicopter pilot. Well, I don't know if I could move my legs to run the rudders, Right. So it just was a list of things, and I was like, I can't really go hunt anymore because I can't, the off-camber gravel, the red parking lot is terrible for me sometimes, but the off-camber landing of my feet, it just shoots up my back. So I can't really go hunting anymore. I really like the wildlife, that kind of stuff, the outdoors. So why not become a taxidermist? And then I can hear everybody else's stories. I can see everybody else's trophies, hear about everybody else's hunt, still stay in that because
connected to the culture.
Connected to the culture because I was adamant, and I have never gotten a disabled parking permit.
Okay.
I will not get a disabled hunting permit.
Okay.
Because I am not disabled. I'm disabled, but in my mind, I'm not going to accept
No.
fact.
And I think let me clarify because I think I understand this. It's not that you're against the concept. It was that it would have been fatal to you because if you would have just accepted it, your progress would have stopped.
Yeah.
There's something about you that couldn't have accepted it because you knew. I think we've had this conversation. Like to accept the parking spaces and things like that would have been to accept a position that's not progressive.
Worthlessness. Because there was a lot of years of worthlessness to have your children put your shoes and socks on.
Yeah. So the shoot help, you went from like helping at Brasada on Tuesday nights to literally working the biggest events in the Northwest. And you're like, if you've been to a team roping in the Northwest, you've seen Jason Graham running the shoots.
I did a lot of them last year.
And you're the first guy that I've ever known that could compete with Ty Yost as far as teams per hour.
I wanted, yes. Me and him are going to get together someday, I hope.
Well, how many steers were you going through an hour?
If everybody knows Penny from ACTRA.
Penny Barker.
She is very, very Johnny on the spot. We are going to get through this. We got a lot of teams. We were averaging in Lakeview 100 teams an hour, but we did get up to like 115, she said. And this is all on her. I mean, because she was...
Well, she's after the team ropers. Like, she's the one that's like, get in the box.
Yes.
But that doesn't help if there's not a steer ready to go.
Right. No, and that's my job. And I actually don't get to watch. Everybody always asks me, "What does this steer do? What does this steer do?" Technically, I don't care once that steer leaves.
Right, you're
leaves
watching the header.
Once that he nods at me, my job is as fast as I can to get that steer in here and ready to go.
Yeah, because
that's my job, and I take my job.
So you've already regionally. It's such an interesting thing to me because regionally you've taken over. I mean,
I like
you've
to keep going.
You've got offers from people that are not like Brandon Beers and I.
I was supposed to do Brock Cresta this year.
Yep, and so Brandon and I were the main two, but then you've even started now getting offers from people that are not connected to the Central Oregon thing. Where do you see that, like in your mind, when you go to bed at night? What is your goal as far as where you want to take that?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm having fun doing it. So, I mean, I'd like to, because I am a best you can possibly do at what you're doing. I'd like to say, yeah, I'm gonna be at the NFR.
Yeah.
Because he missed 5 gates last year, team roping. Yes, I counted.
Yeah. Well, and that's so. I don't know anybody else. Like, there's the guy that runs BFI every year that does a good job. And he's got a great
With
attitude.
Carlos or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
And then he works some of the opens, but to me that's a standard. In my mind, you're setting a standard that brings up the whole atmosphere of the whole roping. Because like if somebody's just kind of being a typical kind of an idiot team roper, I've seen you go, hey, stop it. You've got the ability, because you've led crews before, you have the ability to bring about some structure and some order that just an average guy working a chute's not going to have.
Right.
So it's not even just that you're running steers through as fast as you can go. You're also establishing a little bit of order that I've never seen somebody that commands that much clarity.
I think that it helps the fact that because I was, and it's a huge part of me is a pretty good story, but maybe next time. But my nickname for quite a few years was A-hole, spelled out, And then I worked with a guy in Austria, and he called me sir all the time. And I was like, my small group called me A-hole. And I said, you can call me whatever you want. You can call me A-hole if you want, but quit calling me sir. We are equals. And so he says, okay, sir A-hole. So I was Sir A-hole for about another 8 years.
Like you got
around, like you
knighted.
said, around the world, I was known as Sir A-hole.
Yeah. Well,
but what I was getting at is that the perfectionist part of it is there's a difference between an A-hole and a
right.
polar bear. That's where that comes in. Polar bear.
Well, and that's what, if you didn't have that, then you don't have the ability to tell somebody to straighten up.
Right, and that's what I was getting at, is that when there's he's dinking around, a header's dinking around,
yeah,
and the steer is on his way to the chute, it's under control, get in the box, let's go.
Right. And hearing that from you,
they're not used to hearing that from a chute operator.
Right.
The chute operator is, I won't say
literally
Lord.
the volunteer. Honestly, my whole life it's been like whoever
it's been
you
the
could get
grandma
to do
or the
it.
child or the grandkid,
the parents, or
it's another roper who's waiting his turn. It's just I've decided that it was something I could do, so I decided that I was going to take it to the best of my ability, and that was.
So here we are, 2020, in the middle of what I would say is probably the most chaotic month in the history of the U.S. that's in my lifetime. The world is changing, but in your perspective, coming out of where you've come from, even in the midst of this storm, what's so interesting to me is that your perspective has been like, I've already come out of, and I won't put words in your mouth. You stop me whenever you understand where I'm going. You've already come out of the darkest period of your life. You have a relationship with Jesus in a way that's very real to you now. You have a community of people. You have this passion for something that literally I think is so unique. It's almost like you're safeguarded now because what you're going through, you already gone through, 5 years ago? Something like that. 10 years ago. So what's now? What's next? Like as the world is sort of figuring out its plan as a nation, what is the Jason, can I say your wife's name? Am I allowed to say your wife's name? Mm-hmm. Cherry. What's the Jason Cherry 5-year plan? Yeah, the Jason Cherry show. What's the 5-year plan? What does it look like for you moving forward?
In 5 years, I hope to be my wife moved over here full time with her thing going, and then so that way we basically work together. We're always together. That's really all that matters is me and her.
Well, and she works in the Valley at a lab, and the lab is going to then be set up. The process of getting her here is finishing the lab in Central Oregon.
Yes.
And that is also part of the reason she was so concerned, is she didn't have the ability to stay here and keep tabs on you.
Yep.
And so, literal isolation.
Yep. We spent a few years, because I was told I can't, so it took me, actually still only about half done, but I was told manageable lifestyle, so I built my house.
Yeah.
It's taken me a long time.
Sure.
But I've done it just because tell me I can't do that.
Well, how interesting to me that you put so much value in what you did for work, but then I ask you what your goals are, and it's all people related.
Because I'm in a different life.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, when I walked in that door the very first time, my whole perspective on life changed. People actually talk to me as a person, not, people you work with. You have a rapport that you have with each other that's sometimes not very nice,
Yeah. Well, surface.
It's what but it is. But when you come in here and it's actual genuine.
Right. Right.
I was trying to make it through having a good day, right? When I walked in here the first time, and Rich Franks sat next to me and talked to me before and then talked to me after, and he says to me, "Go have a good week." And I was like, "You realize the pressure you just put on me? I'm trying to get through the day, bro."
What if I had 1/7 of that?
Right.
Can we start with 1/7?
But it was a challenge. I mean, it was okay. I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah.
So when I came back and he said, "How was your week?" I said, "It was great. I had a great week." And then it was like that next sermon, you challenged all of us to do something that you would not normally do. So that was the day that I started helping at Brasada, that Tuesday, and I sat at the strip and shoot, and I introduced myself to every single person that came up.
No kidding.
And it was before I walked in this door, I would have, "Here's your rope."
Right. Right. That's kind of what we expect from people who are running shoots. So for you not to do that, it sort of messes up the standard.
Well, I'll tell you, if your horse steps on my foot twice, we're done.
So the 5-year plan is people. First portion of your life was work, job related. Now it's people.
Happiness. Like Chris said, love. Me and Chris have had a couple conversations about love, and it's what I consider love. And there's several different types of love. There's the love that I'm talking about is different than the love I have for my wife,
Yeah.
But the love that I feel in this building,
Yeah.
I've never felt before. Never.
I don't know anybody who's had an experience with Jesus. I know people have experience with religion and walk away, or with a church they walk away, or like the pastor and the pastor lets them down, they walk away. I don't know anybody who's ever had a genuine experience with the person of Jesus that could walk away, because it's not based on like white knuckle trying to hold on to the rules, because that's work. It's the relationship with Jesus that says in, out, up, down. The person of Jesus is holding me. So how could I ever let go of that? I don't know anybody that's ever walked away from that. So for you to say that was your experience, like in my mind, I don't know what God's got in mind for you, but I know it's going to include a standard of peace. What I mean by that is you expect peace. You don't put up with a lot of bickering and like ugliness and that and
it's toxic. There's no happiness. There's no happiness. I mean, I don't want to sound like a hippie, because it's kind of funny. I heard one time, do you realize how close rednecks and hippies are to each other?
Okay.
Anyway, it's about this book.
So but now it's a standard of peace that I see, that like you've got a very low tolerance for anything that's like what I would say toxic. Mm-hmm. Like now, because your standard is that, now instead of you looking for that sort of an environment, you're someone who brings that environment. Like it is now so much a part of you. No, it's true. Now it's so much a part of you that when you walk into a room, now instead of you looking for it, you're bringing it. And that to me is how someone has found Jesus, is that it's coming from the inside, coming to the outside. It's not an external need to constantly be fulfilled. It's like because of who Jesus is in your life, what he's done in your life, that is now what you bring to a situation.
Fair enough.
Okay. I think that's a good stopping point. We're going to do this again. There's still so much about your story. There will come a day where we actually can get into the details of the transitionary period accident I want to hear more about. But for now, I think that's pretty encompassing. So was there anything I was going to talk about that I forgot?
I don't know. We never really had a game plan.
Okay. I like it. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Start crying 2 seconds into it.
It was Dusty the whole time.